We have a lot to do tomorrow, Thursday, April 23rd, so I'm going to put up a screencast doing the wrap-up. I've circled the hard problems, into hard based on the number of teams that got these answers incorrect on the team wrap. All right, so number 7 was tough. The most efficient distribution of pollution abatement among polluters is, it's actually A, and this is one of those that is easier to explain by talking about when it's not true than to say what happens when it's true. Anyway, if ever the marginal cost of cleaning up one more ton were different, and abatement means cleaning up one more ton, as you know from your reading, if ever that cost were different, we would have an opportunity to cause a relatively high cost firm to clean up one less ton and transfer that responsibility to one of the lower cost firms and require them to clean up one more ton. And then in the doing, we would achieve the same amount of pollution cleanup, but at lower cost. So anytime the abatement costs were not equal, we could lower costs by reallocating responsibility. So only when they're all equal do we minimize costs. It's a little bit of a, that was marked an easy one in the test bank, but I can see that was one of the finer points. Number 14 was also hard, judging by the number of people that got it wrong, but really there's only one answer, one of the possibilities that fits here, and that's that human beings have, or individuals have, partial control over the human capital that they bring to the labor market. And the reason this is that human capital is everything between people's ears, and some of that is innate intelligence, but obviously a lot of it is how much you pay attention in school and how hard you work in school, how much effort you put out on the job, etc. And so you have partial control, and that's why D is the correct answer here. 15, that's a little bit harder. So this number 15 comes from the very last part of chapter 12. I think it was 12. Anyway, the point here, oh no, this was the chapter on government. Anyway, the point here is that workplace safety laws can be justified on the basis of a market failure only if there's this positional externality thing going on. Otherwise, workers would choose the safer jobs, and employers would have to pay a wage premium for the more risky job. The market failure that would justify government intervention is this part A. If people are driven by this need to keep up with the Joneses, it's a positional arms race, there isn't much utility gain by more income, it's just a race, the prisoner's dilemma where everybody's amassing too much material items without any change in relative position. Anyway, if that's going on, then workplace safety laws can correct a market failure. Otherwise, the economics suggests that the market forces would eliminate, would punish a firm offering unsafe conditions to its workers. We'll talk a lot about 16 in class next week, but briefly, we recall from chapter 6 that we get to the market demand curve in the analysis of a private good by summing across quantity over all the firm supply curves, or firm marginal cost curves. The public good, since it's non-rival and non-exclusive, if the good's offered, everybody gets to use it. Well, then remember that our demand curve is the marginal value function, and so you'd actually get the social demand curve by summing vertically, summing over price across all the individual demand curves for a public good. So we'll beat that point to death next week. as I've indicated here, 17 was also a hard one, and this is vocabulary and not much to explain. It's only that insurance that pays for all expenses generated by the insured's activity is known as first dollar insurance coverage. And that's just straight vocabulary. Not much more to say. Oh, I meant to circle the answer to number 16. To derive the market demand curve for a private good, one sums the individual quantities at various prices. For a public good, one sums the individual prices at various quantities. So A is the correct answer to 16. 17, again, it's not vocabulary, but it's just a fact out of the reading. It's been a pretty precipitous decline in union membership in the United States, and union membership indeed has declined by half since the 1950s. Here, number 19, if all relevant private and social costs and benefits are included in the demand and supply curves for a particular good, then imposing a tax will, it turns out in this case, the competitive market will achieve the optimal outcome. So imposing a tax will reduce production and consumption before efficient level. I'm going to just do a thumbnail sketch here. We'll talk about this point a little bit more next week, but it's a pretty easy one to show you. So implicitly, as is so often the case, it's left implied we're talking about competitive markets. It's actually a more interesting question if we aren't talking about competitive markets. Once we talk demand and supply, we're talking about competitive markets by definition. Anyway, if there's no externalities, the demand curve is the marginal social value function, supply curve is the marginal social cost function. By definition, efficiency occurs where those two are equal. There we are. The easiest way to see a tax is simply to notice that the price the buyers pay when we have a tax, whether it's on buyers or sellers, the price the buyers pay, we'll call that very cleverly P1, is going to be exactly T dollars higher than the price the sellers receive. And that we'll call P1 minus T. And so we can see that output has fallen and there's some dead weight loss. Again, this is only the case when there are no externalities. We've seen where there's negative externalities, a tax can actually increase efficiency by eliminating dead weight loss. Anyway, so number 19 is D. Let me go back to a black pen. And then finally, medical insurance covering routine medical care became common actually only after World War II. Before World War II, people were paid wages and bought their own insurance, mainly just for hospital coverage. World War II, there was a wage price freeze, and a lot of firms started offering health insurance and other benefits because they couldn't offer monetary wage increases to attract workers. And from there, it became a common thing. Such benefits received favorable tax treatment, and here we are today.